All right, we've roped in Dr. Sizo Nkala, Research Fellow at the Center for Africa-China Studies with the University of Johannesburg. Dr. Nkala, very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for your time. So the aerial conflict between the two countries is escalating, as we're seeing, with a lot of course, speculation around the United States' involvement in the coming days. Militarily, what does the United States assistance of Israel mean for Iran, especially when you consider, President Trump's statements calling for what appears to be the total surrender of the Iranian government?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I think the United States intervention in the conflict, I think it will tilt the balance in favor of Israel. Because it brings with it, I think, massive military capabilities, as the report that was compiled before this interview showed. I think there are two U.S. aircraft carriers that have been moved to the Middle East. A bunker buster bomb, I think, it has been moved to one of the islands in the Indian Ocean. It seems the Trump administration is preparing to join Israel in its airstrikes against Iran. And I don't think Iran has got the defensive capabilities to handle joint airstrikes by US and Israel fighter jets. So I think it will tilt the balance of this conflict in favor of Israel.
And before we get to, of course, just some of the implications of what this could possibly mean for Iran, in terms of Trump's, foreign policy, one gets the impression that the discussions and the decisions, especially from Trump, are happening at an escalated rate too, with President Trump's diplomatic position continuously changing, and we're seeing that happening, of course, on his social media site. He is seemingly getting some pushback, though, from Congress. I mean, just speak to us about that, especially given that most Americans are really not interested in being dragged into this particular war.
Well, that's very true. You really never know what to expect with Trump. I think unpredictability is one of is a hallmark of his political strategy. But I do think that even in this Israel-Iran conflict, he has shifted positions. At first, he was in favor of a diplomatic solution, and then he shifted. Now he was backing and supporting Israel's strikes, military strikes in Iran. He distanced himself from the strikes when they first happened, but sensing that the strikes were successful, he then joined in support of the strikes. But I do think at this point in time, Trump is favoring a military solution. I think he really wants to join in the airstrikes and strike the Fordo nuclear facility that is buried deep beneath mountains in the south of Tehran. So I think with regards to Congress, Trump's foreign policy so far, if you look at the tariffs issue, he ignored Congress. The travel bans again, he ignored Congress. And on this one as well, despite the divisions within his political constituencies, I think he's adopting a hardline stance in favor of U.S. intervention in Iran.
And I mean, when we start looking at just some of the reaction from some world leaders just at the back of that G7 summit, what can you tell us about maybe any possibilities around space for any kind of conversation or even de-escalation between Iran and Israel? I mean, in light of what you are saying now in terms of what the U.S. is probably leaning towards.
Well, the West, it seems the West, most of the Western countries are supporting what Israel is doing. They are supporting the Israeli attacks. I think the German Chancellor earlier on, he said Israel was doing the world's dirty work in terms of trying to destroy Iranian nuclear facilities. But far from the West, I think in the Middle East, the countries in the Middle East are favoring a diplomatic solution. Whether they will be able to influence Trump to support a diplomatic solution. I think that's a question that remains to be answered. I think Russia as well has offered to negotiate, to mediate and negotiate a peace deal between Iran and Israel in partnership with the United States. So whether the US will take that up, I think that's not clear at the moment. But yeah, there are divisions amongst, in the international community at this point. Some are favoring the attacks, especially in the West, but non-Western countries in the Middle East, I think, favor a diplomatic solution. And the African Union statement released a few days ago, it also favors, I think, a diplomatic resolution of this conflict.
All right, Dr. Nkala, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Dr. Sizo Nkala is a research fellow at the Center for Africa-China Studies with the University of Johannesburg.